like masturbate.
How about we could
Smith debate?
Smith debaters.
I like it. Hey.
Oh, it's awful.
CommanderSmiths know how to party. CommanderSmiths know how to party. In the Twin Cities, cities of magic, we keep it rockin', and we keep it rockin'. Now let me welcome everybody to CommanderSmiths, a podcast that is untouchable like Progenitus. Dang, I almost had it. You know how many times I practiced that word? I was like, Progenitus, just say it.
Well, yeah, that's definitely Tupac featuring Dr. Dre with California Love.
Yep, there we go.
That song was probably the first one I was able to listen to.
That had like the explicit lyrics with it.
Definitely. Grew up, that's, I was like 5th or 6th grade. It was gangsta.
Good job, Larry. You got it. That was a good one.
Welcome to CommanderSmiths.
Me, you.
No, I
you,
think
me,
it's you.
Me, you. Adam Smith.
I'm Lowry Smith.
Cousins. Did it right away that time. There was no delay.
Confident. I like it.
No delay at all. This is episode number 12.
Yeah.
We're moving along. Not moving. We're not moving.
No, we're not. Moving to a brand new time.
Moving.
Tuesday morning.
We have this, our Sunday podcast. This has kind of been our regular now. We're 5?
Yeah, this is going to be the 5th week.
Fifth week.
Doing it on a Sunday night. So you probably get it Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, it depends on how fast we get this one edited.
All you great people listening out there.
You can find us on Twitter at CommanderSmiths.
And you can find us
You can find us on email if you want.
You can find us on email, but we'd prefer you to just send us something at CommanderSmiths@gmail.
Please send us something. Just anything. Just like maybe hi or... No, I'm just kidding.
I love you, Adam.
No, it's funny because I see you're typing what you're going to talk about, and I see the email. Like, we got any... Oh, it's Larry. And you can also find our YouTube channel. We had dueling boxes that we talked about last week.
Open up Dominaria.
Yep.
And
I guess we can kind of spoil that now that
it's been a week. If you haven't listened to it yet, go and watch it. And
stop this podcast now and go listen to it.
But since you've downloaded this one, you'll eventually finish it, so that's perfect as well.
Yeah, so I ended up getting Karn in that box.
Yeah, and that is what dominated me.
Yeah, actually, it was pretty much the difference because we had the tracker at the bottom, and it was pretty much $40 difference, $50
$50 difference,
and that's pretty much Karn right there.
Yeah, and Karn is awesome. I didn't get a single Planeswalker. I was kind of hoping for Teferi the most.
Yeah. And Teferi, that would have been really close there because Teferi jumped after last weekend and everything.
But instead, I got less mythics than you, cheaper mythics than you, and any cool foils I got, you got as well.
Too.
Yeah. So I was
but you ended up, we spent $80 on the box or something, $82, and you ended up $90, so you ended up $10 more.
At that point. But again, every time you open up a box, the value is going to drop out after about 4 to 6 weeks, and cards are going to get figured out a little bit. And
did Mark tell you what he did a draft? Did he tell you what he pulled out of it?
Mm-mm.
A foil Brea.
Are you kidding me? Wait, Brea.
The angel.
Oh, Lyra?
Lyra, dang it.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Lyra. Yeah. So he has a regular Lyra
and a foil Lyra?
And a foil.
Son of a...
Yeah, I was like, you bastard.
He almost beat my box.
Just with that. Oh, man.
Disappointing again.
He has some lucky pack pulls there. It's pretty crazy.
He's a lucky man.
Yeah. So, this
Congratulations,
week's episode. This week's episode, we are actually doing a Commander Spotlight.
Kind of, yeah. So we'll talk about.
Well, we talked about this.
Muldrotha. This is the one that I'm going to play against Slimefoot next week. A little bit against Adam. And so I got my deck together. I'd like to talk about it a little bit because I don't know how different it is from everybody else's build, but I just want to sit down and talk about the things that I kind of came up with trying to make things efficient while playing with the deck.
Yeah, and this commander, I believe, is the most popular commander out of the set.
I can see Slimefoot being super popular.
It is,
too.
but this is the mythic. It's the one that everybody's going for. Yeah. Slimefoot's really easy to get. It sounds like from stuff other podcasts were talking about it that I think this was the number one Muldrotha.
Okay.
And then I believe Slimefoot was 2 or 3. So it's in the top 3.
Yeah, I can believe
whatever.
that.
But yeah, so this will be exciting. I've watched some videos on that one playing, and I'm very interested to see what you did with your deck. So, but that's segment 1. And then we're also going to go into a controversial topic.
I don't know if it's controversial around everybody.
But
it was
between
with us. Yeah.
kind
and
of.
so we didn't even come up with a name for this segment.
It's just we're going to talk about Infect.
We can Commander-Smith debate. That doesn't really ring.
No,
All right.
it doesn't. There's no alliteration, nothing with that.
Nah, it's
Smith debate.
yeah, Smith.
It's like masturbate.
How about we could
Smith
yeah,
debate?
Smith debaters.
I like it. Hey,
Oh, that's awful.
Smith debaters.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then we will
Are you
finish
Smith debating?
after the Smith debaters. We're gonna finish off the show with
Gross.
Smith specs.
The show enjoyed it. That's gross. All right. Yeah, so Smith specs, we got the 3 segments. So we'll do Lowry's spotlight on Muldrotha, followed by our infection discussion,
No, Smith debaters.
Smith debating. And then we'll finish.
Is
Words are not coming
Is Commander Baiters better?
Smith baiters.
Smith Baiters.
So Lowry, why don't you start us off with Muldrotha here?
Muldrotha, the Gravetide. It's 3 colorless, black, green, and blue. A legendary elemental avatar, 6/6. And the cool part is, during each of your turns, you may play up to 1 permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard. If a card has multiple permanent types, choose one as you play it.
So I'm just guessing, I'm going on a limb here. You pretty much have all permanents in this deck.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of spells. I'll admit that one. I want some spells that are going to be able to just really good removal. Like Maelstrom Pulse is going to be in there. I'm not going to talk about that necessarily. But
for the most part, everything is
a permanent because I want to have the recursion, and that's where... Because basically, if you fill your graveyard, that's like drawing cards.
So I'm interested. So just describe the deck. Is this more of a deck that you're playing your stuff and then you don't care if it dies or you're sacking it to die? Or are you doing more of the dredge style where you're putting your stuff into the graveyard? Or what's the kind of the idea of the deck in general?
The way I went was more of a value-based where I want to be able to play permanents that can sacrifice themselves that I can later recur with Muldrotha or various other ones. I tend to play with the theme of Muldrotha, but understanding he's a huge target. And so you need those other recursion abilities in the deck because Muldrotha is probably not going to hang around.
Yeah.
And if you don't have him as your value, the deck can really fall flat. And so in my mind, and we'll get into that, but you want other ways of bringing stuff back from your graveyard.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And do you have... Well, I guess we'll get into it. I was going to say, do you have protection stuff for her?
Yeah. I definitely, I always try and have some protection in a deck, and those are just pretty simple and easy. Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves. One thing that I did find out that's really nice with Muldrotha is that, you can bring back enchantments, so auras aren't as bad. Okay. They're not necessarily bad, but you can always get 2 for 1. But with Muldrotha, you can bring them back, and you can still have the effect.
Nice. So, not to put it on the spot, like, how do you want to handle this? How do you want to start the breakdown of Muldrotha? Do you want to start with your land?
Well, I mean, we can go a little bit with the protection.
Okay, yeah. I was just throwing it out there, so I didn't. I was like, oh crap, I put him on the spot.
So I think
he has the cards here, so we're kind of going through it as.
I would say these 2 are probably the more kind of unique cards.
Okay, so we have Monastery Siege, which is 2 colorless and 1 blue, and it's an enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, choose Khans or Dragons. Khans gives you at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card, then discard a card. If you choose Dragons, spells your opponent's cast that target a permanent or permanent you control cost 2 more to cast. That's freaking awesome.
And now, see, I like this.
And it's foil. Ooh, shiny.
So, but the nice thing is that has double duty. If you have enough protection down for Muldrotha or other permanents like Swiftfoot Boots or Spellskite, this can turn into another draw spell that would put cards into your graveyard as well.
Plus, it's a permanent, so this sucker's coming back if you get it killed.
Yeah, if somebody destroys it, you can bring it back. And I've always liked Monastery Siege, just being able to turn all of your creatures, or is it permanents?
It is spells your opponent's cast, a permanent.
Yeah, so permanent. It turns all of your
target
permanents...
you or a permanent.
It turns everything that you control into a Frost Titan.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Frost Titan is the starter of that. And then the other one is Diplomatic Immunity, which is 1 colorless and blue. This is an enchant creature, so this is going right on Muldrotha. Enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities, and diplomatic immunity can't be the target of spells or abilities. So basically, it's shroud, double shroud. Shroud on the creature and shroud on it. Yeah.
And so the only way you can really end up getting rid of it is through like a wrath effect, which is going to happen. But the nice thing is, again, you play Muldrotha, and then you can play this right from your graveyard right away to protect it again.
And the nice thing is, like, sometimes when you give your stuff Shroud, it can backfire because you're like, oh, crap, I can't target my stuff. I can't make it big. But Muldrotha, you never really want to target her. Well, you think?
I mean, it's a elemental. Why are you always trying to put just a gender?
Just because I don't want to go it. I just want to know he, she... elemental avatar. Yep.
I believe
damn avatars.
I believe there's like
no
gender
penises,
neutral,
no vaginas. They just
turns now. Yeah.
You trying to see if it has its lady bits or man bits?
No, there's like a cloud underneath its whatever's. I'm not worried about that.
Is that boobs? But with Muldrotha, and you put that on there, you don't even need to do anything with them anymore. You know, it just sits there, and it doesn't matter if it's Shroud. You know,
a great
you don't need
value
to target
engine
it anymore.
And it's
the
just
focus
good.
of Muldrotha is to just get it out and have it survive. Then you blast with everything else, which is what you're doing here.
Yeah, and one way to get around that as well, that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, is just like being able to untap your lands when you first play Muldrotha. Yeah. So like, and then these two cards. There's another one I can't quite remember offhand. I'm not sure if I have one or not.
Well, Bear Umbra is actually one that was on the cutting room floor. I don't know how you want to say it.
Cutting room floor. Yep.
We had this was part of our green core cards for Commander Green. Yeah. This one we had a debate of this one, and we both had to cut one off of our list, and he cut this from his. It is a very good card, but it's 2 green and 2 colorless. Enchant aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets 2/2, and then has, whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. So it doesn't have to do damage; it just needs to attack. And then it has totem armor, which means when that creature takes lethal damage, everything but exile, you sacrifice the Umbra, and then your creature stays alive.
Yeah.
So,
and then the other effect that I have in there is Sword of Feast and Famine.
Yeah, and that kind of does the same thing, except for when it attacks and you hit somebody. Then it does, whenever an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card, and you untap all your lands you control. And this is equipment. It's 3 colors to come out, 2 to equip. It also gives your creature 2/2 protection from black and green,
which is protection from Slimefoot.
No, this needs to be banned, Lowry. This is illegal. You don't. This is a copy. This is not the real card.
But the thought here is that when you play Muldrotha, you've just tapped 6. You've probably pretty much tapped out, and you're not going to be able to bring too much back from your graveyard that turn. But if you have one of these out and you're able to untap your lands, then you're able to get that value out right away. So somebody would have to have the instant speed removal to take care of it. And so that's kind of the idea behind it. And when I've play tested with it, it is really good to be able to Muldrotha, untap your lands, and play as many spells from your graveyard as possible.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So then going with that theme with your land, do you have more land stuff, or is that pretty much the... I thought I saw a Ramonap in there.
So yeah, with the lands, and that's pretty much the most important part of this deck, you want to be able to have a ton of lands. And so what I'm doing is I'm running about... I want to say like 12 or 14 lands that can go into the graveyard.
Okay.
Because you can play a land.
So you're saying like with your fetch lands and all that kind of thing with Evolving Wilds?
Yeah, and there's a bunch. I can just like Myriad Landscape, Ash Barrens will cycle into your graveyard. Wasteland is a good way to deal with stuff.
What is it a good way to deal with what?
Deal with
Gaze Cradle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I think you missed an episode a while back. But that's all right.
I know. I got to get it in.
Ding. And then Ruin Burial. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I got 10 lands that can go easily into the graveyard. And so with that, you want to make sure that you can bring them back. And then
so you're pulling with Crucible Worlds is one, and then hand in hand with that is Remnant Excavator. We've talked about both of these cards before, but Remnant Excavator is 2 and 1 green. You may play lands from your graveyard. It's a 2/3. Crucible Worlds does the same thing, but it's an artifact. 3 to come out, and then he has Life from the Loam, which is 1 colorless and 1 green sorcery. Return up to 3 land cards from your graveyard to your hand, and has Dredge 3, which means you can, when you're going to draw your first card or draw a card, you can put the top 3 cards into your graveyard, and then it goes back to your hand.
Yep. And so, those are ways to get lands back from your graveyard, along with Muldrotha. It has that effect as well.
So that's kind of nice, because then if Muldrotha's not actually out, like if it's been killed too many times, you still have those to be able to bring stuff back.
Exactly.
So it's still working with the theme of coming from your graveyard and everything.
And then also these 3 right here.
Okay, so then he has his extra land drops. So we have Exploration, which is a 1 green enchantment. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Then you have Azusa Lost But Seeking. That was in the Masters 25, just recently reprinted. She's 2 and 1 legendary human monk. You may play an additional 2 lands, isn't it?
2 lands.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. 2 lands on each of your turns. And then what we talked about last episode, Oracle Moldiah, 3 and 1 green. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and then you also play with the top card of your library revealed. And you can play lands from the top of your library.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so those allowing you to be able to play extra fetch lands from your graveyard and just kind of cycle through your deck, so you can consistently hit like 2-3 land drops in a turn, along with the graveyard recursion with the lands, and then some of the cards that are able to just kind of mill your deck a little bit, and or have the fetches that have the lands there. So that, I think that's really important for the ramp package with this.
And yeah, because you definitely need it. Because
yeah. And they're all permanents, again, other than Life from the Loam, but Life from the Loam is a recurable spell on its own.
With all that, how do you have, I don't know how you want to go with this, but do you have what do you do to control the board a little bit? Do you have some things that work with that?
What I would go with for that is a lot of the permanents that I have tend to like sacrifice to themselves.
Okay.
So some of my removal packet are like Pernicious Deed.
Pernicious. Okay,
Pernicious.
So it's an enchantment, 1 black and green. Oh, I like this card actually. Yeah. Tap X, sacrifice it, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with converted mana cost X or less. So yeah, this is pretty crazy because you can just kill itself, and then you bring it back from the graveyard when you have Muldrotha back out. Yeah, that's pretty...
Yeah, and just able to kill all of Slimefoot's tokens super easy.
Why do you keep saying Slimefoot? I thought when we were texting back and forth that you weren't going to focus on Slimefoot.
I'm pretty sure this is a perfect card in that deck, but I'm just saying it's going to be really easy for Slimefoot.
This is stupid. All right, I'm glad that my deck isn't completely finished yet.
And then a similar one that's going to help me out a ton is...
Ratchet Bomb, of course, yes. You're such a douche canoe. 2 colorless, put a charge counter on Ratchet Bomb, sacrifice it, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Ratchet Bomb. Well, somehow I'm going to make my Saproling tokens have 1 casting cost. I don't know how
you're
going to
do
do
great with that. Yeah. And then one more removal package.
The thing about that is you actually may be helping me by doing that.
Yeah. Because
that's part of what I have to figure out with my final touches with Slimefoot is I need something that I can board wipe myself. And and everybody else at the same time, but then also that does the damage and everything. So.
I don't want to get into that, but I do have some bounce in here right now as well. But that's a different section. So I also have artifact and enchantment removal with Caustic Caterpillar, Thrashing Brontodon, and Seal of Primordial, which are 2 creatures and an enchantment. You want a varying amount of permanents in this deck so that you can get maximum value per turn out of Muldrotha. But that'll take care of a lot of the artifacts and enchantments.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because then these are cheap costing ones, too, to keep coming back into play, too.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And then recurable fog.
Yeah. So you hate my constant miss, but you're going to play a recurring fog with Spore Frog.
I'm pretty sure I never said I wasn't a hypocrite.
So Spore Frog is just 1 green, and it's a 1/1, and you can sacrifice it to prevent all combat damage that we've dealt this turn. So I guess the one saving grace with that is that Muldrotha only works on your turn. It would be so freaking crazy if it was on everybody else's turn.
You'd still have to have something that gave your cards flash because you still have to do the timing issues. And I decided only to put 1 card like this that has this effect, but Flashbag Marauder, it's a 3/1 for 2 colorless and a black. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. Now there's 2 other cards that creatures that do a very similar effect to that. I decided only to put 1 in just because I want a varying amount of ability to deal with multiple threats.
Yeah.
And these tend to be a lot better for
not token decks, more of your powerful 1 to 3, 4 creature decks.
You still want the ability to get rid of Indestructible or the Voltroning commanders. Being able to get to those is still pretty important.
That makes sense.
And then you have some there are artifacts out there that can get rid of graveyards, and you can add those in. There's multiple of them, so go find them yourself.
It was almost kind of, you just said go fuck yourself.
I didn't say that.
It's pretty much started with an F.
Let's figure it out.
Go find it yourself.
So one fun card that I kind of like.
Yeah, this was on the cutting room floor from our green stuff too. Pattern Rebirth. I'm glad you got this in there. 3 and 1 green enchant creature. When enchant creature dies, you get to go search for a creature and put it into play. So sacking your own stuff is pretty awesome, and then putting it back on, that's pretty cool because then you're going to be putting it on a creature, sack it. Not only it's in your graveyard or whatever, but you get to go search for another creature. So that works really well with this. I dig it.
Can you dig it?
Now, did you go with Defense of the Heart in there too?
I did not. I cut that because I felt like it was geared too much towards Slimefoot. So I did cut cards that I felt like were too good against Slimefoot as well.
You,
yeah, I'm trying to balance it out.
I'm surprised you didn't make a sideboard for the cards that aren't going to be against Slimefoot when you normally have it, and then your Slimefoot hate deck.
No.
I have decided we're not playing each other.
No, that's all right. We can just talk it out.
Yeah.
No,
my deck would kick your ass here. My deck totally would win.
So one disappointing thing, before I was able to buy some of the cards, my spec from last week was River Kelpie.
Yep.
And
that went up.
Yeah, I was going to buy it. And then when I looked last Tuesday, it was up to $10.
Yeah, after no, you did it before probably, but
it was that day, and I was like,
Lowry, your spec went way up, and it had already spiked, and then it went on a second spike. I was like, Lowry, it went on a second spike. Way to go! You're like, I didn't buy it.
I'm glad that you got that inflection from my text. So.
But good spec, Larry.
Yeah.
Normally, when you do the spec, you should have the card. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, it's
one card that I used to replace that idea would be Secrets of the Dead. It's an enchantment, 2 colorless with a blue. Whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, draw a card.
Okay.
Very similar, but just an enchantment.
You mentioned that to me off air, not on podcast.
Yeah, so it's probably better to have both River Kelpie and
but that's much cheaper.
Secrets
Can I see
of the
it
Dead.
actually?
Yeah, Secrets of the Dead is 25 cents.
Oh yeah. I picked up foils of these guys. I like that card a lot.
And the foils actually, when I checked, were sold out. So
oh really?
Yeah, they might do something here.
Those are in my box way in the back. I actually don't even know where I have those foils sitting. So yeah, that's a good replacement for that. So, what's your what's your game winner?
That's kind of a problem.
Well, I see an Emrakul stared at me. Luckily, it's not the banned one,
kinda-
but you have an Emrakul.
I don't want to go there yet.
You don't? Okay.
I don't want to go there yet.
I didn't say Emrakul.
What kind of... So I said that there are going to be other recursion factors in the deck that you want to have build. So, I mean, a lot of people are going to have Havengul Lich. Eternal Witness was the most played green card. Some kind of cool ones that you could be doing are the auras again.
Dance of the Dead is 1 and 1 black. Enchant dead creature. Oh, nice. And it's from Ice Age. I like it. Okay, so I actually don't know. I've seen this card. I just don't have this card, so I don't know it off the top of my head. Take target creature from a graveyard and put it directly into play under your control. So it's doing the same thing as your other one, Animate Dead, with a 1/1. I guess a 1/1 counter, but it's not really saying a counter. It just says with 1/1.
No,
treat that creature as though it were just summoned. The creature does not untap during its controller's untap phase. At the end of his or her upkeep, its controller may pay an additional 1 and 1 colorless to untap it. If Dance of the Dead is removed, bury that creature into owner's graveyard. So then you have Animate Dead, which does the same thing in a way. Actually, I feel like Animate Dead's a little bit better.
Yeah.
So you enchant any creature in any graveyard. The only difference is that creature gets -1/-0. It doesn't have the as Dance of the Dead. You have to tap 1 and 1 black to untap it. The only thing it is, there's such a long text with this, but basically, if you kill Animate Dead, the creature dies. You kill the creature, Animate Dead dies. Of course, because it's an enchant creature.
Just an aura that brings back a creature from your graveyard.
Has 1 less toughness.
And they're both kind of doing
power,
that.
I mean.
Yeah.
And then one of the newer cards from Rivals, 1 black and green legendary enchant aura. Enchant creature you control. Whenever an enchanted creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. Then you flip it, and your flip is a legendary land. Tap to give you any color, or 3 black green. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you have 2 ways of bringing stuff back. So you could Slimefoot, sorry. You could Muldrotha and then bring a creature back and then bring another creature back with him.
Yep. And there's a ton of... You want to be playing a bunch of creatures that can sacrifice themselves to be able to have that kind of go off.
Is this my next pile I got to talk about?
Yeah. So
this is a huge pile.
Yeah.
So, you have your other destroy. Well, no, that was a sack one. So Shriekmaw is your way of this spot removal.
There are 3 different keywords over the years that I found that I thought were pretty good that can give you value and still go to the graveyard, which would be Evoke.
Yep, you love the Evoke
and
guys.
you
use those a lot.
But Shriekmaw and Muldrifter are amazing.
Those are your 2 main go-to guys.
Yeah, I use them a lot.
Muldrifter is the blue one, which draws you cards. Shriekmaw is the one that destroys a non-artifact, non-black creature.
So then cumulative upkeep allows you to... So the 2 there is Mystic Remora,
and Elephant Grass.
Mystic Remora, basically, it'll draw you a card if an opponent plays a non-creature spell, unless they pay 4, which they're not going to. Yeah. So you're drawing a card off of it. But the cumulative upkeep is 1, and so you pay the upkeep once, and then you just let it die and
because
recast
then it costs exactly the same to come out again. Yeah.
And then same thing with Elephant Grass. I don't remember specifically.
Black creatures cannot attack you. Non-black creatures cannot attack you unless their controller plays 2. So it's Ghostly Prison or Propaganda.
And so
with the
that's 1
enchantment.
green, and then the upkeep is 1 again, and so you just kind of are able to go back and forth.
And then you got the Nagas, which that's their
and Exploit.
Subtypes.
There's a bunch of cards out there with Exploit.
Sidisi, I really like. I started using that a couple years ago, and it's
a really solid card.
Yeah, so it has Death Touch Exploit, which means when it comes into play, you may sacrifice a creature. If you exploit, you may search your library for a card. So it's
Demonic Tutor.
You go search for anything.
Tutor. No. Demonic Tutor.
Demonic.
What's the 4-mana one? That's probably similar.
That's Diabolic.
Okay.
But It's demonic tutor is
it's
the
a
one
tutor.
that we use. Yeah,
it's a black tutor.
It's any card tutor. So, and it's 3 and 2. So you also get a creature with it, and it's a 4/6. So, and then the blue one is when it exploits a creature, return to their owner's hands all creatures. God, you're a douche. This is totally for frickin'...
No, it's really good in this deck.
It's so good in this deck. Good. Just with tokens. So it says return to their owner's hands all creatures your opponents control with toughness less than the exploited creature's toughness. Adam's
going to sit here and complain that you're gearing towards Slimefoot, but really what you should take away from this, people out there in podcast land, is plan for tokens. Tokens is a real strategy, and they can overrun you. And so if you don't plan for it, you're in a lot of trouble. So make sure that you do.
I might be scrapping my deck and I'm going to go the opposite and not do tokens.
So get Profaner of the Dead and some decks.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, let's see. How many people... Trombley has his token deck. I guess Mike has his Goblin red deck.
Jeremy has... Giselle token
and I guess
deck.
if you take Edgar with all the tokens that come with that, but Edgar, that's a big one just recently.
He's a jerk.
He's fucking a good jerk.
Good jerk. It's such a good jerk. I love it.
Oh man, there's a lot of masturbation jokes on this episode. I think that's the title. That's what the title should just be: is masturbation.
I hope not. And so again, I'll repeat myself with Muldrotha. You want to make sure that you have a good variety of permanents in your deck. I'm running about 4 Planeswalkers. And the nice thing with the Planeswalkers is...
they can die and come back.
They can die and come back. And so I'm not going to read all of the text here, but I'm running Karn Liberated, Vraska the Unseen, Tezzeret the Seeker, and Jace Beleren. And they all have pretty good minus abilities.
Well, you got your Karn to remove any permanents.
Vraska removes any non-land permanent. Tezzeret can go get any artifact.
Vraska, isn't that the Vraska with the 1/1s that kill a person if they hit them? The assassins? Correct. Nice. Yeah, I like that Vraska.
And then Jace Beleren, you can minus draw a card, draw a card, replay. Yeah, it just makes sense in my mind.
But
again, definitely. You can play any Planeswalkers in those colors that you want if you got them. They're going to work. You want that permanent
you can just kill them. It doesn't matter. They just come right back. You keep casting them.
Yeah. We're kind of starting to get down. Another thing about, like, if you want a little bit of flexibility in there, make sure, like, that reminder text at the end of Muldrotha, if it has multiple permanent types, you can choose one.
Mm-hmm.
So artifact creatures are pretty important as well.
Because then you can choose one or the other.
Yep.
If you have creatures.
So if you want to cast 2 creatures, you can cast Solemn Simulacrum from your deck, or from your graveyard, and another creature.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, and so it kind of works like that. Another good one to keep is like Baleful Strix.
Like that, where it's 1/1 Death Touch flying draw card, right?
Draw card when it enters the battlefield.
Got it.
Black and a blue.
That's a good card because you can have it as a chump blocker, and then it can keep drawing cards there.
And I think we'll probably...
these are your game winners.
Yeah, those
I
are
got the game winners in hand, but I got to talk about something else first.
Yep, you got
he got the search for his Kanta in there. Good.
And I think it's
Kanta. Why'd you laugh? How it's as Kanta?
Yeah, it sounds like you want to put a U in there.
I'm not going to do it. I almost did.
So
as Kanta.
But what you want to be able to do is you're going to have a bunch of permanents that put themselves in the graveyard, but you want a little bit of a help and a little bit of a push as well, because that's any card that you put into your graveyard from your library is basically like drawing a card.
Oh, so you put Sidisi in here. This was one of his commanders that he used to... Do you still have this deck?
It's technically taken apart for this.
Oh, really?
At this point, yeah.
The whole deck, or you just... Or
I still have the cards. Yeah, I'll switch them back and forth.
So Sidisi is 1 black, green, blue, and when she enters the battlefield or attacks, put the top 3 cards of your library in your graveyard, which helps for Muldrotha because you want stuff in your graveyard, and then you can cast those later. When 1 or more creature cards is put into your graveyard from your library, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token into the battlefield, and she's also a 3/3. Do you want me to read all these?
No, I mean, we can just name...
So we have Search for Azcanta, Hermit Druid, which
Basically, it mills until you get a basic land,
Yep.
and so that can put a ton of cards into your library.
And then Intuition.
Intuition is amazing. It allows you to search for any 3 cards in your library, and your opponent puts one of them in your hand, 2 of them go into the graveyard. It's like putting 3 into your hand.
Ooh, and then Mind Slicer. That's a good one to get rid of people's hands.
Mind Slicer.
When it's put into the graveyard from play, each player discards his or her hand.
And so that doesn't affect you nearly as much as it does everybody else.
Yeah, I like that. Very
so
douchey.
Thank you.
It fits you very well, Lowry.
Thank you very much. And then I put 2 kind of game enders in there.
So we have Aetherflux Reservoir, which was one of my specs from a month or two ago. But 4 colorless, it's an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell that you cast that turn. You can pay 50 life to do 50 damage to a player or to a creature. And then Emrakul. Oh, go ahead. You want to talk about? Let's talk about Aetherflux.
The reason why I have Aetherflux in there is that was a late addition, but whenever I found that I could actually have a turn with Muldrotha, I was playing 3 or 4 spells.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because, you're mono ramping like crazy, so you should have a ton of mana out there.
Yep.
And your enchantments, your permanents in your graveyard are, from what I'm seeing, are typically low casting costs.
And that's the other thing. I want to be able to cast 2 to 4 spells per turn to get that value with Muldrotha.
And then not only that, then you have the stuff in your hand that you can cast on top of that. So yeah, I dig that a lot. Is that your only? I think that's the only life gain I saw on
Correct.
it?
Yeah, I did take out some other life gain stuff that just weren't going to work nearly as much.
No, I mean
there's one that I kind of want to put back in is Erebos' Whip. It gives all your creatures lifelink, and then you can pay 2 and 2 black, tap it, and bring a creature back from your graveyard, gets haste, and then you exile it.
So that's an exile.
And it's a legendary artifact and enchantment, though. So like
what if you subbed in that land that gives all your? It's 2 white and black, or white?
Yeah,
no,
it's white and black. I can't do that.
Yeah, never mind.
I mean, I could, but
you're a cheater
for some reason.
And then we've finished this off with Emrakul, the Promise End. 13 legendary creature Eldrazi, 13/13. It costs 1 less for each card type among cards in your graveyard, so that's freaking awesome.
It's playing right into Muldrotha.
When you cast Emrakul, you basically take over somebody's turn. They do get to have a turn after that, so you're kind of giving them 2 turns, but you can fuck shit up.
Yeah, you can mess stuff up, especially in a multiplayer game.
I attack you over here, but when we're one-on-one, this might be a little difficult. Kinda. You can set it up. So
I'll let you attack with Slimefoot, and I'll kill it, and then I'll kill the rest of your tokens.
And then it's flying trample protection from instants, which is pretty sweet because then you don't get removed with Swords of Plowshare. No, that's the sorcery. No, Swords of Plowshare is instant.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Path to Exile, any of that stuff. So nice.
Yay!
I don't like all the token.
Well,
hate
again. You gotta be ready for tokens. You gotta be ready for a bunch of stuff. So Slimefoot's in trouble though.
Yeah, I have. Well, to give you a kind of an idea, mine is dealing with a lot of sack stuff too. So kind of similar with stuff like that. What I'm working on right now. It's not the final stuff. I have the narrowing down, but it is doing the whole thing that I've done before.
I destroy you.
Where it's sacking my stuff and making you sack stuff.
I had a feeling that was going to happen. Damn it.
So that's the idea, but it's still going to be tough because even though you're sacking your stuff, you're going to be able to bring stuff back if I don't get Muldrotha out of there. So
yeah, you need to be able to sacrifice enough.
But you know how my play style isn't to target necessarily people; it's to make them target themselves to get around that.
Yeah,
because we do have a lot of people that have like everybody plays
and Boots and Greaves and. It just makes sense.
So, but yeah, that'll do it for what do we want to call that segment?
That's kind of a Commander Spotlight.
Yeah, that was a Commander Spotlight. So
that
was
similar.
I like it. I'm very interested to see how that goes. We're going to be doing 1v1s first, just because of timing, and this month is very, very busy. So we'll be playing those when we get together with our big group. We got to put that on the calendar here. And then we'll see how it runs. I'll probably run mine the whole time just to get how good test runs with all different decks. But it'll be cool to see 1v1 how it goes. So now we get into our, what do we call it? What was it again?
I think it's Command Debaters. That works better.
Commandebators.
Commandebators. Yeah.
Smithbaters. Commandebators.
That just sounds way too gross. I think Commander.
But this won't be like a continuing segment necessarily.
It could.
I guess.
I mean, you're just going to get upset because I win this segment, and then you're going to want to find a different one.
So, Larry and I have had discussions about Infect. Now, do you go ahead and say you're part of why you dislike Infect?
First off, Infect is a rule across all. You get it, whenever you're dealt damage by a creature with Infect, you get poison counters. If you have 10 poison counters or more, you lose the game.
Game over.
Now, the problem that I have initially with poison and Infect in general is that your life total of when Infect was created was for modern or standard or whatever, which is 20 life.
Mm-hmm.
Commander is 40 life. And so, in my mind, you should be increasing
the Infect as well?
The Infect. I don't have an exact number because nobody agrees with me, but in my mind, it's 15 or 20 Infect as well.
But
like doubling it.
My thought with that is, you have 40 life, but unless you're building an Infect deck. I understand that part. Remember, I built my Infect deck,
mm-hmm.
and I played it like twice, and then I never played it again.
Because it wasn't fun?
Well,
makes
it was
sense.
Fun winning. No, I'm just kidding. But to have everything Infect, yes, it does make the game go fast. Even in modern, I mean, I think Infect is making a comeback right now. People are building decks like that because it is having that life is a lot. I see what your argument is, but my argument with that whole thing was you need a way to kill somebody that isn't, somebody that's gaining a ton of life. We've got to many games where somebody has like 500 life.
And that's where would say like, I've never said get rid of poison. I would just increase it to make it more. I don't think that poison should be more powerful than commander damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you're playing this is where I go a little different, is that you don't always have those commanders that, like, for example, your Muldrotha is not going to kill somebody commander damage.
I don't know if that's accurate.
I didn't see many stuff in there that's going to be pumping your Muldrotha up,
But he's a 6/6, so all I have
guess
to do
it
is get
pretty strong, yeah. But you know what I'm saying? If you're playing decks that the power of the commander is 1, 2, 3, they're not going to kill 4 people with your commander damage.
But then the argument of you have one player at 500, but you got to worry about everybody else. I think then everybody's ganging up on 500 life guy, and so you're worried about commander damage there.
Yeah, but then if it comes down to it's just you and that person left, it's nice to have that. The life doesn't matter for it knocks it out. It's another option to kill somebody. 15 is going to be a lot. 15, 20, whatever you want to have it at. I just feel like that's a lot tougher to have it,
I kind of think that's how it should be. I don't think it should be easy to win a game of Magic when somebody's at 500.
But I mean,
you shouldn't just be able to go, I got this card, I'm going to kill you.
How often does we actually see the games end with Infect, though?
More than I would want.
Which is like once. He doesn't like it when it's one time. Because I don't remember a game in the last 2 years that is. Well, no. I take
Triumph of the Hordes.
Triumph of the Hordes
killed 3 people at one time.
But that's the one card that I say that I like using to finish the game. You get enough whatever. I mean, that's one of the cards we were going to talk about in this. But that's how decks work. Is your combos. Like that's most of the time how I win games. Is it's one turn and I go, all right, kill everybody with all this damage. I'm sacking this, my Resurrect deck or whatever.
But you can. There's plenty of steps that lead up to you kind of comboing out and killing.
Same
the entire
with him
table.
Being able to kill everybody at once with because he had to get the tokens out enough
But that's over a bunch of turns. To whereas like with Resurrect, you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to put 4 Scion tokens out. Sacrifice. Get all of these tokens on there. I'm going to create a couple more, sacrifice a little bit more, sacrifice some lands. You see how it's more of like an engine going boom, 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 boom. Instead, in my mind, Triumph of the Hordes is a card that's almost better than like Insurrection or, where it just takes everybody's creatures and then you kill everybody.
Well, I guess it's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper and you get around the life thing, which is what I like.
And so, like, I almost think
it's
poison,
green's game winner. Although you have Crater Hoof Behemoth, which is green for the most part. Green's game winner.
Yeah. It's Triumph of the Hordes is almost basically better than Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Yeah, in a way.
I don't think it is in a way, because Crater Hoof against a 500 life guy does
you're
nothing.
Not doing anything. Yeah. No, that's why it's going up in price. Because people are using it, and it's in. Oh, I should even check that. It's in quite a few decks.
It's something over like $6-7 right now.
Oh, I was more thinking of how many decks are using it.
Yeah, it's in a ton of decks too.
I mean, because it's to have that option. That's why I like I don't stack my decks with these. Like, I normally have one if I have that, but it has to fit the color, because which ones are we kind of talking about here? We have Blightsteel Colossus is your artifact that can go in everything,
and that can go in everything.
But I don't put it in everything.
But you can.
But I was saying is like I don't put that.
It's indestructible, and it's like 11, 12 infect. So like
I've had that. Is that mine? I've seen it happen where it's backfired because somebody did bribery or something, got it out of their deck and used it. So then you have Triumph of the Hordes, which is green. We've talked about that. Skithiryx, the Blight Dragon, which is the black. That's the one I used as my commander.
4/4, you can give it haste.
That I only have. I think that might be in my Dragon deck, but I don't play that enough where I don't remember if that's in there anymore or not. Then you have Glistening Oil. Okay, so then these last three fit in with my Necrosar deck. So it's the drawing. So you have Glistening Oil, which gives a creature infect. So then that's the whole thing with Necrosar, is then that's how I wipe people out with that. But that's with drawing. That's a little tougher than.
And I'm actually Necrosar, the Mind Razor, is probably the one spot where I'm okay with dying from infect, because you actually got to work at it. Mm-hmm. It's infect. I need to wheel, and then probably wheel one more time, or wait a couple turns while everybody's trying to draw, or like that ends up drawing more cards.
It's not you're saying like die that turn necessarily from attacks from tokens.
Yeah, and I'm still not like super happy about it, but Necrosar is if you're not like wheeling to just deal a ton of damage to everybody, it is a good alternative way, because I have seen Necrosar being a lot tougher to win with. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I'm okay with the commander maybe getting it to make it a little bit more powerful or a little bit more user friendly with it.
Where would you be happy with the infect damage? Because I have a feeling that if you went to 15, then after about a year you'd be like, I think it needs to be at least 20. It's got to be half your life.
Well, I would say 15 to 20. Somewhere in there, because life doubled from 20 to 40. Poison did nothing. In my mind, poison shouldn't more than double. I would think that, but I don't think you need
to adjust everything for commander. You know, that's just how they did the rules for the life. You know, if you go and adjust everything for commander, you know, I know you're saying that because they raised your life and all that, it was just a different format. You don't need to change everything about how Magic is played. You get what I'm saying?
No. It's a different format, and you have different ways of playing the game. You have plenty of different rules and restrictions.
The only thing that really changed is you went up to 40 life.
Well, you also have
commander damage, but that was an added thing. That wasn't a rule change. It was an added way of dying.
Well, that's a new way of dying.
Yeah.
And then you also, you have your deck, you have your added deck restrictions of the colors can only be within that, the color identity of your commander. There are plenty of rules that were made up for commander and changed.
But you're not changed. It's an added rule. So the only change is your life really got changed from your starting life. How you start a game of Magic, you start with 20 life normally with every other format except for commander, except now Brawl is also changed to 30.
Yep.
So then would Brawl be 15 is when in your mind then too, or how would that all work then?
Well, they don't have infect, so they'd have to go back to that, but I don't know if they would change that or not.
Yeah.
It really does depend on what they plan on doing.
Now, have you heard anybody else make these complaints, or is this more of you?
This is me.
That's what I'm wondering. I was like, do you have a backing of anybody else making? Because I haven't heard anything else.
I have nobody on my side.
Because I'd like to hear it. I honestly would. Like, I liked your arguments with it, but my only point with the whole thing is like just having another alternate way of dying. We don't see Infect a lot with our games. Triumph of the Horde is our biggest thing, and that's more recent that people are starting to use that more and more. Lowry has notes to argue.
Yep. Okay. So one other thing that I would like, so the other major problem that I have with poison is there isn't any way to deal with it. There's no interaction with it other than blocking those creatures.
You mean you're to get rid of the counters?
Correct. You have leeches, which is
that's your favorite card.
It's a very corner case card that you wouldn't play pretty much unless you know you're going against a poison deck.
So I would just say it depends on your play group, because the thing is, I know we got killed by Triumph of the Horde recently, but that's one game out of whatever. It's not like this happens every single time. But if it starts to happen every single time, then yeah, maybe it does become an issue of whatever. But people aren't playing with it necessarily. And then actually, with Trombley's case, I would start to look out for that. Not look out, but get worried when he has the land for and be like, oh crap, he has too many creatures where he's going to wipe us all out. But it still is one card out of 100 cards that he has to draw, unless he goes and searches for it, which that's what we've been trying to do lately. Is Lowry's deck here didn't have many tutors. Yeah,
we as in everybody else is not.
No. But me and you, we're not trying to get the tutoring as much lately with the new decks we built. So like Lowry's deck there, from what I saw, you had 2 tutors.
2, yeah,
Two
Intuition
tutors?
and the Sidisi,
which we normally run quite a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Like 6 or 7 or something like that. So I guess I would just say if our play group started playing with all the time, then yeah, maybe.
Well, I think the other thing is, like, when it's a spell, I think it's a bigger problem too than just the creatures. I think the creatures are costed properly from the Scars of Mirrodin block, because they're like 1 extra mana, so they're a little bit slower. I think the problem comes in with the spells that are giving just like bonuses to a big beefy creature, or Triumph of the Hordes that gives multiple creatures infect, because it's a lot harder to deal with them in my mind, other than if you're running a ton of counter spells.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a counter spell up and ready for it, it's kind of just game.
Yeah, but then it's the same thing. I guess it's green that's what you got to worry about. Is Triumph of the Hordes and Creative Behemoth are the 2 things that are gonna game win there. And it's just the same thing when you're playing a blue deck. I always am, if there's 7 mana sitting up that and they let the turn go, that's coming. And that's almost a game winner. It's a little less,
it's
but
pretty much a game winner. Yeah.
If you're late in the game and you have the control, that's probably coming. So I just feel like it's an interesting threat to think about, that, yeah, you can be wiped out. And sometimes I just want the fucking games to end at that point. Just when it's all out, kill us all. Okay, as long as you're not just killing one person and then you got to sit for freaking ever. I hate getting killed first with that.
Yeah, that
sit for
does
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need the games to end, Lowry.
I'd like to just play forever.
I like I said from before, I do get what you're saying, but I don't think that we play Infect enough to have it be a problem.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna sit down and make a swamp mosquito deck and clone them and just deal no damage and all poison.
Just do it.
One black, one colorless, one
removal.
flyer. Whenever it's not blocked, that opponent gets a poison counter. Alliances, get some.
You go get it.
I loved that card when I was a kid.
I do remember you playing that. So you can play with it when you're a kid, but as an adult, no.
Yeah, it's called knowing
it's child's
better.
Play.
Yeah, I know better now not to play with poison, Mr. Yuck Sticker.
So what do we conclude with that? I mean,
Lowry wins.
Lowry wins. I would say, like I was just saying, is it depends on your play group. If your play group is playing Infect like crazy and it's just not fun, then get rid of it. But I mean, it's green is your one that you really have to worry about. Green and black.
Yeah.
There's quite a few crappy black creatures that
I mean, like, I'm not even a huge fan of, like, okay, so Atraxa as a commander, if you make a poison deck out of that, all you have to do is have Atraxa on the field, and it just ticks up one. When you proliferate at the end of the turn, you give everybody a poison counter.
Yeah.
If they have one, I mean, I understand that's slow, but if you're a poison deck, you're giving more than one.
See, now you're just giving people ideas to make poison decks, because mine doesn't have that in it. I don't think anybody else's that has Atraxa has that in it.
Lowry
wants to make
Atraxa
it.
is the second most played commander with poison.
With poison?
Yeah.
Well, I can see that, but we don't have that.
We could.
See, it
could happen.
You're like,
it could happen.
This can happen. This can be really bad. It doesn't happen, but but yeah. So I guess it conclude that is if our play group starts playing with a ton of poison, that's how you die all the time. Yeah,
I'm gonna quit.
You're gonna quit. When in Rome, agree to disagree.
Is that how we're gonna do this?
Yeah,
maybe that's the name of the segment. When in Rome, agree to disagree.
I don't think that's how that works.
A battle tale.
All right, let's move into the final segment. We got a few
Smith specs.
Smith specs of the week. Larry, you want to start us off with your Smith specs?
Okay, so the first one that I think is pretty undervalued and I think is a solid card, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, is like Necrotic Ooze.
Is that the one with the graveyard one where it becomes...
Okay, so it's 2 black, 2 colorless. I believe it's a 4/3, and then it gets all activated abilities of all creatures in the graveyard. And so it's already a combo card in Legacy.
Yeah. And so you're just talking about the regulars, or you're talking about the foils of this?
I think the regular is probably maybe a better buy. The foil is about $8. And if it does get figured out in Modern, I think it'll shoot up. But it's a great commander card. It's used in a couple of fringe decks in Legacy, and I think it's with like Triskelion and Phyrexian Devourer. That kind of combos off and creates as many tokens as you want, and then you can deal a bunch of damage.
So did this trigger because of the deck you were making? Because this could work with Muldrotha in a way. Because you're putting stuff in your graveyard, but.
No.
What made you think of this one?
I like it. It's just on my list of cards.
Nice.
So
I could see either way going with that. I mean, your foils haven't really moved much for a while. You've been $6-7 for a few years, and then your regulars are pretty much at the same. Yeah. Actually, they've been a little bit more on the rise.
Slowly,
very slow.
Slow.
But I agree. I mean, it's only has one printing with it, so that's quite a while ago too. So, yeah, I like that. I have one copy.
Thank you. Yeah, I have like 2.
Go out and buy more.
Yeah.
So then my first spec of the week, it's actually going to be kind of 2 specs in a way. The one that I'm more talking about is the set that we just opened a few months ago, the Masters 25. They reprinted. All right, Larry, help me with this one.
Mikokoro.
There we go, Mikokoro. Center of the Sea, which that card, what it does is it's a legendary land. You can tap to give you 1 colorless, or you can tap 2 and each player draws a card. Now, this is sitting at I was picking them up for about $8. Right now, the foils they're at $8, but if you look at the original printing, they're at $50. And they really did not drop in price from Masters 25 coming out. And like Larry had mentioned when we talked about the Masters 25, we're getting to that 2-month range after a month or 2 after it came out. So
time to go and start looking at Masters 25 cards and kind of picking up.
Yeah.
It's about the bottom at this point.
Yeah, and this one hasn't. I mean, it's gone down a little bit, but it stayed pretty flat with where the price is. But then a similar one, actually, Lowry came up with this spec about a year or 2 ago. But it's Reier Reach of Sanitarium, and it's from Eldritch Moon. I'm more focused on the foils of these bad boys. You can get them for around $3 right now. It almost does the exact same thing as the one I was just talking about, except for when you draw a card, when each player draws a card, they also discard a card. Mm-hmm. So the idea of this one I like is if you have cards in your hand and your opponents don't, you're just making them draw a card and throw it into the graveyard.
Oh, that's a good point.
So I kind of liked that idea with it. But these are at $3, so it's kind of like your budget of that.
Yeah, and they're both really good in Necrotic decks.
Yeah.
Because it just forces everybody to draw a card for a couple of land taps.
Yeah.
And actually, I kind of like Reier Reach Sanitarium almost a little bit better for graveyard decks because it allows me to get a card from my hand into the graveyard. So I do like both of them. Mikokoro was a much more expensive card. And it is a great card.
Yeah, and I mean,
really
like I said, it's a fifth of the price of what the original printing was. And it's getting at that time. Larry, next card.
So the next one that I would do is Sigarda's Aid, which is it's a 1 white enchantment, and then it's whenever you cast or you can cast equipment and aura spells at instant speed. And whenever you cast an equipment, you get to attach it right away. Yep,
I like that card. When that came out, I immediately was picking up the regulars of that, and that's been kind of on a steady rise.
Going up. I think it's a great commander card because there's a bunch more like expensive equipments, and it just instantly attaches. And now I would suggest the foil.
I was actually going to tell you that in my notes I have upstairs, this is one of the cards I want to pick up here in the next couple of weeks. The foil version. So
non-foil is about $120. Foil version is in between, like it's probably around $350. $350. And so I would say both of those. I would say it's a commander card easily.
It's used in quite a few decks. Hold on, let me check. 5,800 decks, but I mean. They got to be playing.
You want to be in an equipment deck when you're playing.
So it's
obviously.
Be specific. But yeah, no, I like this card a lot. I mean, it's a 1-drop for that.
Yeah, it's not a very big mana investment for it.
I mean, you technically don't have to just do equipment. It does say auras as well.
Yeah, if you're an aura deck, it's probably not that bad to cast it at instant speed either.
Yeah, I dig it. My next one is Sunbird's Invocation. Now this one I kind of have heard on different podcasts them talking about, not as a spec necessarily. Well, I think one actually just recently talked about it as a spec, but lots of people are starting to use this card because it's from Ixalan. It's 1 red, 5 colorless enchantment. Whenever you the basic of this, there's a lot of text to it, but when you cast a spell, you reveal the top X cards of your library, which is X is the casting cost of that spell, and then you may play a card that costs X or less without paying its mana cost.
So if it's like cast something of 6, you get to look at the top 6 cards and cast something of 6 or less.
A non-land, I believe.
Non-land
permanent. Casting, yeah. So just anything but a land and you can cast it. So you can do this multiple times. It isn't just your first spell. You can keep casting, and do this.
It just has to be from your hand.
Yep, and it can be on other people's turns too. So like... you can cast something on their turn and it does the same thing. Yeah, so it's not just your turn.
I really like... I actually use this card in my Ramos deck.
Yeah, see, I didn't even own it until I just bought the foils here. So how does it work in that?
It just like generates so much like tokens for Ramos. Like... because you're casting the spell from Sunbird's Invocation as well.
Yeah.
And so whenever you cast a colored spell, Ramos will gain a 1/1 counter for each of its colors. And so if you're able to pop the 5 off of it, can get 10 mana.
Oh yeah.
Then you can just like dig deep or do multiple spells in a turn. It's really powerful in that deck.
Yeah. So right now the regulars are you can probably get those for about $1, and I picked up the foils for around $5 actually. So
and I think it's a really solid EDH card.
Yeah. Larry.
So. It's probably a little bit more of a pet card of mine rather than like a Smith spec or whatever. But Thing in the Ice. It's an 04 for a colorless and a blue, and you get 3 ice counters on it. Every time you cast an instant or sorcery spell, remove an ice counter. When the last ice counter is removed from Thing in the Ice, you flip it.
Yep.
Whenever it's flipped, you get a huge
7/8.
A 7/8, and then you return all non-horror creatures to their controller's hand. So it does yours as well. Mm-hmm. But I think it's slowly been going up, and I think it's playable in Modern as a nice control deck. In my mind, I want to play like Snapcaster Mage because you get double duty if it's returned to your hand anyway. and just a bunch of spells so that you can get the ice counter off. It gets to attack for 7 when it flips.
I did try to run this in the one of the modern decks, first modern decks that I made recently, I should say. It works pretty well for that. I didn't have the Snapcasters.
Yeah, I think it needs a different shell than what you were using.
Yeah, because mine was using the prowess ability and everything.
Swift Spear. And
I ended up cutting it. So, but I think with the Snapcasters is a good idea. You could definitely do some...
Yeah, so I think it's a great tempo card. Yeah. And
so are you thinking foil or are you thinking the regulars on
I think any version of it would be worth the buy.
Yeah, because your regulars are probably around $4, and your foils, you could probably get the pre-release ones for $9.
Yeah. 9, 10.
Yeah.
What you can kind of get the foils and pre-release foils for. And I think they're
double-sided foil.
Yeah, double-sided foil is also going to be... It's not going to be reprinted nearly, like the chance of it being reprinted is a lot lower as well as a double-sided card.
Very nice. That was your 3, right?
Yeah, that was my 3.
All right.
You kind of doubled up, but you had your 2 backups kind of taken.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do a little story with mine. Tender Shoot Dryad, which is one of the newer cards.
Rivals of Ixalan.
It is working with Slimefoot, but with the whatchamacallit, Brawl, Standard, and with Slimefoot and regular Commander, this has started to take off. So it jumped earlier this week to like $7, and as I was pulling up the podcast to get my specs up, I looked again, and now she's sitting at 17. So
that's not something you would invest in anymore? Do you think it's pretty high for what it's worth at this point?
I think the top is now. So
close to. It's not going to go up to 30.
No, definitely. I was thinking 20 was the get out point. So we're close to that.
I think so?
I think I might try to sell the ones I have. I did buy... they're not completely out, so you can look right now. Some places might have them for $7-8,
but they're drying up.
Yeah, they're pretty much out of inventory. And then same thing with Mind's Dilation. That one I was seeing on TCG that you could get those for for like $12 the foil. But even the regulars. So this is maybe where I'm kind of focused with this. Is the regulars of that might be worth looking into. You can probably get those for $3.50, $4 right now. But the foils jumped up to 20. I was getting those at 12. I think it's going to keep going up. I just don't know where the ceiling is on this one.
I mean...
It's a commander card. It's not going to go in anything else.
This is actually another one that I put in my Ramos deck because I can a lot easier cast it with the 10 mana free.
So it's 5 and 2 blue, and then it's whenever an opponent casts a spell, you reveal the top card of their library. And if it's permanent, right? Permanent?
Any spell.
Non-land.
Yeah.
Non-land spell. So kind of the same idea as Sunbird's, but it's
your
opponents.
Yeah.
So you're playing off at the top of their library as long as it's not a land.
And it is really powerful. It's a lot of mana for me to get super excited about it.
But that's why Commander is it's focused on this. It's kind of the same thing as Zendikaar's Resurgent, and why that one's kind of going up, because people are realizing, hey, it's Commander. I can play this, 10 turns in, and it's actually a really good card. So those two are kind of, if you can find them cheaper, or Mind's Dilation, do the regular on that. I wouldn't jump in on Tender Shoot for the regulars necessarily. I think those prices are going to go down. Yeah, those are pretty high right now for that, for being a rare and just recent set. Not the most recent, but, the set before. So, I think that's about it. That was my failed 2 specs.
Yeah. Did we
hit our quota? Time quota?
I know we're over an hour.
Just a little over.
A little over?
Damn you, Scuba Steve. No, that's all right. We try to keep this around an hour because we know, people's drive in.
You got a life. You don't want to just listen to us talk.
There's a couple podcasts that are just like freaking hour 40, 2 hours. I'm like, oh man, I can't listen to that whole thing.
Yeah, it's not, I know that you like hearing our voices, but it's maybe not as good as like Infinity Wars, which I watched last night. Loved it. Name drop.
Nice.
Avengers. Great.
I didn't probably see the second one. I didn't see the second one.
Age of Ultron? Well, they're not technically associated with each other. They're They're all their own movies.
Well, yeah, I need to get caught up with the other ones. I just with kids with two
It's
boys.
been like 2
I fell,
years, so like
fell
you're just
behind to
officially
watch.
behind.
Yeah, well, because you borrowed me Thor Ragnarok,
Which
just
is also a great
recently.
movie.
It was a good movie, but I with the two kids, it was harder to go out to movies and stuff.
Yeah, I went by myself.
Loser.
No, it was packed. Nobody knew I was by
Oh,
myself.
really? You started holding the hand of the next person, so it made it look like you were with somebody.
And they hit me.
Just play for the bit. Come on.
I'm like, what bit? Why are you talking? Get away from me. Brush your teeth.
Yeah, so let's do our end stuff.
You can catch us on Twitter at CommanderSmiths.
Or you can email us at commandersmiths@gmail.com. God, we've screwed up the email part both times.
We should say .gov or .org or something different. Gmail.gov.
We'll get the same amount of emails we've gotten.
Maybe that's what it is. We need to spell it out for them. COMMANDERSMITH at
GMAIL.
No. Get it? Checking the mail.
And then you can check out our YouTube. We'll start to get more videos as we go here, but right now we have the 2 dueling boxes. Still don't know if we want to do battle boxes or dueling boxes. I'm kind of on the fence for that.
If anybody has any firm opinion, you can shout at us.
Were you trying to do a masturbation thing there?
No.
Firm?
That'd be no.
You said firm. Very.
I think you're
firm.
thinking really hard about this.
We know that.
Really hard.
Why are you winking at me?
I'm something in my eye.
Yeah. And then next week, hopefully, we will have our
we'll talk a little bit about
how our decks went and how
Muldrotha dominated Slimefoot.
Slimefoot hate deck. You should really call that deck.
No. It is not even close to geared towards killing Slimefoot. It's just going to be that easy to kill Slimefoot.
And then we'll do a little spotlight on Slimefoot as well. So I should hopefully. I mean, I got to work on that this week. So we'll see that.
Get your shit done.
Yeah, I will. Fucker. All right. Well, that should do it for this week. We will check you guys next week after our battle of battles. I couldn't think of anything.
We really need to work on these names beforehand.
We should write it down and say just off the top of our head. Battle of battles. All right.
That'd be like the worst like fantasy novel ever. It was the Battle of Battles.
I hate you, Larry. All right. That should do it.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
See ya. Battle of battles.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was mid-sentence, and I was like, I don't know where this is going to go.